Now, can I share a picture with you? This is just part of getting to know the Andersen family. So somewhere there's going to be, there we are. There we are. That was just a couple years ago. You can tell. Just a couple years ago. Actually, in May, we hit our 37th wedding anniversary. And it's been a ride. It's been a good ride. It's been overall a good ride. But I really love this man a whole lot. And then, and I might tear up, bear with me, there's the rest of our crew now. It really amazes me that the two of us have become that. And so we have 3 children. They're all married to incredible people. And we have 5 grandchildren. And it just truly is the biggest blessing of my life that the Lord has allowed that to happen to me. And I love those people. And we should just move on now, or I'll keep crying and getting emotional. We've been in a series about the parables of Jesus, the stories Jesus told. I've loved hearing those and the different speakers, as well as kind of the different little twists and turns that the parables bring on. I'm not sharing a parable today, though, so that'll be fun. What I do want to share, though, and why I felt it could be allowed in the parable series, it is a story Jesus told, in a sense, with his own actions. We're going to talk about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And this true life example he gave is, I think, more in depth maybe than we think, because we look at it as serving. Jesus showing us we should serve others. Absolutely true, absolutely part of what he was showing us. But I think there's a little deeper thing that he was wanting to also get across. So while you open your Bibles or get ready to look at John chapter 13, I'm going to ask the ushers if they would bring the water and the buckets, and you guys get your shoes off, and we'll all get ready to go. Okay, some are excited about it. No, don't worry about it. No shoe removal. For some people that, removing shoes is just, we're going to talk about that. We'll get there. John chapter 13, verse 1, before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around them. So I'm curious, has anybody here ever had your feet washed or washed someone else's feet? Not like in the bathtub, not like washing your kids' feet, not getting a pedicure, like in this same thing that Jesus is, where we're washing feet with a purpose, not just as I see a couple. Okay. I've had this happen in my life twice, that I've had my feet washed. It was one of the most awkward moments of my entire life. You're kind of wondering what to do with yourself while you're sitting there, because in your head, this is a really special moment. And it was. One of the times Doug and I both had our feet washed in front of another one of our congregations. It was a very moving moment, but at the same time, the just practical side of you is kind of going, oh my gosh, someone's touching my feet. Someone's taking my shoes off. No one touches my feet. You can't touch my husband's feet. He hates it. He'll jump through the roof if you touch his feet. So I'm thinking all these things about just this moment, but trying this is a special holy moment, but this is really awkward. This week I got in touch with one of the people who had washed my feet, and I asked them, what was it like for you? You're on the other side of this equation. He said, oh my gosh, it was so awkward. Like, what am I supposed to do? Am I doing it right? I've never washed anyone's feet like this. Are people watching me? Are they wondering why I'm doing all the things that are in our heads? So all of that to say, in today's culture, it's obviously not something we do a lot. There are some churches that will wash feet kind of as a custom surrounding the Passover, as part of the celebration of the Passover to commemorate what Jesus was doing in this moment. But it's not something we generally do. And to put it in another context, the historical context, foot washing was very common. They did this all the time. It was born out of the simple gesture of kindness when someone came to your house, that you would provide something or someone to wash their feet. Roads were dirt. People wore sandals made out of rope and leather. And it was hot usually. I mean, these types of climates where you're wearing sandals all the time, it's hot, it's sweaty, feet get dirty, they might get muddy. You can just, you put all that together and it's like, ugh. Like, I don't want to wash anyone's feet. That's not my calling. But this often, it kept the house cleaner when someone came in, and it was just refreshing for the person who was coming to visit you. Part of the key of understanding this passage and what Jesus is doing and why it's kind of a big deal is that foot washing was considered a job for only the lowliest to perform. Some rabbis taught that this task was so lowly and demeaning that it was unacceptable to have any Jew, regardless of their position in life. No Jew should wash anyone's feet. So usually the task was assigned to a slave or the wife. Okay, ladies, we've come a long way. But still today in the Middle East, feet are considered filthy and undignified. There's kind of like culturally just a disgust for feet. I don't know that any of us get really excited about feet, but it's just, obviously they're necessary, but they're also just not the most pleasant part of our bodies to deal with, especially somebody else's. So keep in mind also that though foot washing probably wasn't the most pleasant task, we're not talking about like nail file and scrub brush pedicure sort of moment. We're just talking, take the shoe off, rinse the foot in water, and dry it. Still extremely awkward, I think. That would be my vote. And no disciple could have imagined that Jesus would ever put himself in a position like this. But I believe Jesus wanted his disciples to see two things. And one, I think, is a little more, maybe not more important, but a little deeper in our understanding as believers. First, of course, he wanted them to see a physical, living example of him serving. And serving at the lowliest point that is very common to all of them. It was very normal to them to see this happen. It probably didn't even stand out to them usually. You walk in the house, this is what you do. It was just a common occurrence. But they couldn't have missed his example of serving. He also chose something this common and lowly because I think it made the disciples have to ask the question, what on earth is he doing and why? Why is he doing this? That question would push them beyond what he was doing physically to search deeper for the reason behind what they were doing, what he was doing. And I think they were seeing and began to acknowledge that there was something in his heart that motivated his serving of them. There had to be something in his heart to motivate that level of serving someone. His heart fully loved them. His heart was fully willing to serve them. I said one of these is a little more important. The action here is important. But I think Jesus was really seeking to get a hold of their heart and to get them to look at their own hearts and the condition of their hearts. The heart condition behind that action is what allowed him to serve them that way. And it's our hearts behind an action of service that is either going to make it a grudging, difficult, ugly thing we're doing, but we're doing it anyway, or it's going to be an act of love, whatever that service is. So it's the heart matter that I feel Jesus was really looking at, even beyond him serving them. He used such a distasteful action to elevate the heart action. They had to look beyond that one action to see that there was more. We would probably have a hard time doing this. You don't need to raise your hand, because I think we would all raise our hands like, who wants to wash feet? Not me, not today. Not even next week. We're just not washing feet. Think of the things that need to be laid aside for us to take such an action. And I'm not even talking specifically washing feet now. Serving others. There's times we do it very easily and willingly. I actually have washed a lot of little feet in my day. These are my kids. These are my grandkids. I love them. Of course, I'm going to help them in any way they need. I won't touch Doug's feet, though. He doesn't like that. But a total stranger, even maybe someone that's a friend, I don't know if I want to wash your feet. I love you guys, but I don't know that washing your feet is really where I'm at. So going beyond that, though, where do we stumble? What do we need to lay aside to be able to serve one another from our heart in any capacity of service? I think we need to lay aside pride, our need to be right, our need to be elevated in some way, our desire to be seen, or, no, I can't do that. That's beneath me. We might not say it out loud, but we've thought it. There's things that pride takes up space in our heart that needs to be laid aside. Laying down position. If anyone laid down position in this moment, it was Jesus, the Son of God, the Messiah, is washing 12 sets of dirty feet. But he's laying down his position, willing to take a position of humility so that we can learn. We sometimes have a hard time laying down a title or a quest to secure our future or to be successful. There's a driving inside of us that doesn't allow serving others. Laying down, having to look good around people. That's another thing. I don't know that we always think like, how do I look? But there's things where we don't do, or we wonder while we're doing, are people watching? What are they thinking? What is their opinion? And we need to lay that aside. We need to lay down our rights. We struggle with having to be right, and we also struggle with our rights. No one can make me do that. No one can make me say that. No one can make me do anything because I have my rights. And usually after that we say, and my pride, right? But Jesus, in his example, all of this is laid aside. All of it. There's not any pride. There's no position he's holding over anybody. He's not trying to look a certain way, and he's not holding any rights over anybody's head. He is showing in his service his love for these people, his love for them beyond anything they've done or said to him. He is loving and laying down all of these things because serving one another without worrying about the cost or the condition of being right, that's when we know we're loving people. Because we can serve without worrying about a cost. Jesus is serving them, washing their feet, which seems horrifying enough, but just hours from now, he will hang on the cross. We're right at that point at the end of Jesus' ministry here on earth. He's about to sacrifice his life for every single one of us. And he does it because of love, because his heart is free to love and serve. It's at this same meal that Jesus will tell his disciples, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." And as we've said, he's about to do that. We will likely not lay down our life for a friend. That's not a normal occurrence. But there are things we can lay down to love others. These men, these 12 disciples, are Jesus' friends. And maybe that made foot washing a little easier. I don't know. I just still struggle with that idea. But these are his friends, his closest of friends. These are the men he has done life with. He has traveled with them. He has lived with them for 3.5 years. I imagine they have laughed together. They've eaten together. Maybe they skipped stones on Lake Galilee. Maybe there were moments of hiding someone's robe and tunic when they were bathing in the lake. I just think these guys they're hanging out. They're doing life together. This isn't all sit at Jesus' feet and listen to him talk to us. They're doing life. They're sharing life, which is extended conversations, intimate revelations about who you are, what you like, what your life experience is, what fears and struggles you have. These men saw each other's weaknesses, their strengths, their shortcomings, their talents, and Jesus loved them, deeply loved and cared for each one. These were his very closest friends. And now he has this moment that he's showing them by washing their feet. This is mind-blowing to them that he would be doing this. This is like the little emoji with the head, like the mind-blowing coming out of the top. Have you guys seen emojis? Okay. You know what I'm talking about. This is beyond what they could understand. So let's talk about what they may have been thinking in this moment, because they had to be thinking something. We know Peter was, because we always know what Peter's thinking, because he always tells us. He often voices his thoughts before thinking about them. In verses 6-9 of chapter 13, Peter says, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will." "No," Peter said, "you will never, ever wash my feet." Jesus said, "But unless I wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter exclaimed, "Then wash my hands and my head as well, Lord, not just my feet." So here's Peter, no. Yes. He's kind of always all over the place, and I love that about him, because he has such enthusiasm, and he so much is wanting to do what's right, and he loves Jesus, and he wants to follow Jesus, but he puts his foot in his mouth so many times. But thankfully after this, it was a clean foot that he put in his mouth. So here's Jesus now washing Peter's feet, knowing that Peter will deny him in just the next number of hours. Peter will deny he even knows Jesus. This is one of Jesus' closest friends. John, the disciple, is described as the disciple whom Jesus loved. And I have to just say, I don't know if you've ever realized, John is the only one who calls himself the disciple Jesus loved. It's only seen in John's gospel. And I just find that funny that this is the nickname, like the disciple Jesus loved. It's me, it's John. I just find it humorous myself. If you don't find it funny, that's okay, or maybe you need to think about it a little longer. But I also find it beautiful that John knew that Jesus loved him, that he felt that love from the Lord. He's one of the 3 disciples that are kind of Jesus's inner circle. There's several things those disciples are listed in the Bible. It's just the 3 of them went with Jesus to do something, and he was one of those. And in this moment, his close friend, his teacher, his Messiah, is washing his feet, just confirming to John how much he loves him. Matthew was a tax collector, and Jesus called him to follow, and Matthew did, but he was despised. His job, nobody liked the tax collector. They were cheats, and they worked for Rome. Matthew could charge whatever amount he wanted of tax. He would give Rome the amount they required, and he would pocket the rest. So this was not someone people looked on favorably. And here's Jesus washing his feet. Thomas is described as a doubter. Simon the Zealot was a former revolutionary. Nathanael was initially pretty skeptical of Jesus. And James, who's the brother of John, they were called the sons of thunder, presumably because of their arguing and anger issues. And Jesus is washing these feet. Judas. We know from verse 2 that Judas has already made plans to betray Jesus, and Jesus stoops to wash his feet, the feet of the man who will betray him, this betrayal that will lead to his death. And I can't even imagine what Judas is thinking in this moment. Does he know what I'm about to do? How should I remain sitting here like this is pretty awkward? I'm about to betray this man. And Jesus still washes Judas's feet because he loved him too. He loved this man. Jesus knew each of them, his friends. He knew them beyond anything they had even revealed. And in 3.5 years, I would think they'd probably revealed quite a bit. But there's always things people hold back. And Jesus knew all of those things about them. And he is washing their feet, his heart fully loving them. He's showing them the importance of the state of their heart. I'd never even thought about maybe Jesus isn't thinking of all those things. We can look and think, wow, this guy hurt him, this guy did this guy's going to betray him. Jesus likely was just loving them, not recounting who they were, what they had been, or what they were currently doing. He was just loving. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart. Everything you do flows from it. The condition of our heart is at the core of this story. Love, 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 love. That can be hard to do. Jesus knew these people were all about to betray him in one way or another over the next many hours. They would all leave. But he loved despite the failings and shortcomings, their brokenness, their disbelief, their dishonesty, anger, pride, skepticism, fear. Jesus still loved because his heart was so free that everything that flowed from it was pure and loving and serving. He calls us to guard our hearts as well so that we can be loving and serving. So in this story, where do you see yourself? Are there things you need to lay aside in order to serve and love? Things we spoke about earlier, like the pride and position and others' opinions and being right. And I'm not just talking about serving by one washing someone's feet or serving in a volunteer position somewhere. Though, while we're here, I just would like to say, in my family, we serve each other. There's things we do for each other and for our home because we're a family. And I feel that should be the same in our church family, that we're a family. We serve one another, we help one another. There are things that need to get done, so we join together to do those things. And as wonderful and helpful as that is, the main benefit is actually for us as we're serving. If you're serving somewhere as a part of our church, you're with a team most likely. There's people you're meeting. There's people you're getting to know. There's people you're doing life with. These are the people who know when your birthday is. These are the people who know when you don't show up one Sunday, they want to find out what's wrong and if you're okay. These are the people that are going to pray for you and support you. And in a family this big, we need some smaller groups so that we're known and we're seen and we serve together and love together, and the Lord does beautiful things through that type of serving. But Jesus is also calling us to look around and see where else we need to serve. Maybe you need to serve your family better. I'm not talking your church family right now, I'm talking your family. And they might be a hard group to love. I don't know. Sometimes family's hard to love. We love them. There are places you may need to serve your spouse better. There are places maybe you need to serve your job better. Not serving your boss, but serving others and working as for the Lord in what you're doing. There are a lot of places we serve every day, places we go, things we do, that our life should be a life that serves anywhere the Lord places us. In John 13:12-17, Jesus says, Jesus isn't saying this, the Bible is saying this about Jesus. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them." God blesses us for serving. In verse 16, when Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message," he's saying, if I, the Son of God, can be a servant and serve, surely you can serve as well. We're called to that. Lay aside the things that tangle you up, that keep you from serving one another. That means looking in your heart at what those things might be. Jesus' action was based from his heart that freely loved. That's what he wanted his disciples and us to see the most, his heart, his love. That's what motivated his act of washing feet. And some of us need to work on, learn, forgive in order to love others. There might be people in your mind right now that the Lord wants you to learn to love and serve better. Some of us are here, and the issue isn't really loving others. We're more than willing to love others, and we try to do that. We try to serve. We try to be responsible in that. We try to be responsible at loving and caring for people. The problem is letting Jesus love me. If in your mind's eye you would see Jesus kneeling in front of you, ready to wash your feet, you just can't imagine that he would be willing to do that for you, to serve you and love you in such a personal way. We see our failures and our mistakes and our bad choices. We feel loss and pain and hurt. And we don't believe Jesus would really think to love us. We can see him love other people, but we have a hard time with seeing him loving us and his willingness to do so. We might hope, like maybe he doesn't see the things I've done or know the things I've thought. Maybe he doesn't remember my bad decisions. We know that's not true. We know he knows us. He sees us. And the beauty is he still loves us. But we sometimes hold back from trusting in how much he truly loves us, each one. And he's still here in front of you after we've gone through that list of all the reasons he may not, that we can't imagine him loving. But he's still here. And he still loves you. And he still wants to wash and cleanse you. I'd like us to come to a time of prayer. I'm hoping within like the last 30-ish minutes, each of us have had some moment of realizing, oh, I need to address that. Or I need to bring that to the Lord. Or I need to ask forgiveness. Or I need to lay that aside. There's any number of things that the Holy Spirit has brought to your mind. And I would like us to just consider putting that, whatever that is for you, putting that in your hands and just bringing it before the Lord. Maybe there's something you need to ask forgiveness for. Maybe there's something in your heart you need help laying aside. Maybe you've realized that your heart isn't as free to love or serve as it needs to be, and you need Jesus to come and cleanse you and refresh your heart and spirit. Let's bring our hearts to him. And I'm just going to ask you, say, Jesus, I know you love me. I want to receive your love. That might be something you need to do. And Jesus wants to meet each one of you. And I'm going to just ask you on your own, if you would close your eyes and bow your heads, see what that is in your hand. Just bring it to the Lord. Just talk to him about it. You might say, I don't know what to say to the Lord. Just tell him, Lord, here's what's in my hands, and I need your help. I know you love me. I know you love me. Help me receive your love and understand your love. You may have never asked the Lord to be part of your life, and this is an opportunity to do that, to say, Lord, I need you in my life. I've never asked you to even be a part of my life, and I need you in my life, and I want to give my life to you today. You can just say that to the Lord. Ask him to forgive you of your sins. There may be some that say, wow, I am realizing I've known the Lord, but I've gotten off track somewhere and I need to come back. I need to come back and come to a point of acknowledging again that the Lord is indeed the keeper of my heart and the one I put my trust in, just talk to the Lord a couple minutes.